You're currently speaking a language which you don't even understand. In fact, you might not even be able to detect it. But despite this, you speak this language 24/7. You speak this language before you're born, and even after you're dead. You never stop speaking this language until you cease to exist. This language is scent. We normally think of something scent as smelling good or bad. Or if you have an even better nose, you may be able to tell the difference between things which stink, smell sweet, sour, minty, and other slightly more complex smells. But there is so much more to scents than just these. So much more, in fact, that you can almost consider it an entire language. You, whether dead or alive, are constantly emitting a certain scent, no matter how much deodorant you put on this morning. But did you know that you actually have relatively fast control over how you smell? Well, not like whether or not you stink, but the other sense you emit, mainly your emotional sense. Compared to most other mammals, humans have pretty poor olfaction, or sense of smell. So we never notice that someone smells different when they're scared or angry. Dogs, on the other hand, can smell these differences because they have an incredible sense of smell. Their sense of smell is so good, in fact, that they can smell a person from up to 20 kilometers away, or detect substances at concentrations as low as 1 part per trillion. In human terms, that's like being able to immediately spot the one dead pixel on the Las Vegas Sphere's interior screen. In human terms, that's like being able to immediately spot the one dead pixel on one of 3,906 Las Vegas Sphere interior screens. But if you think that's crazy, just wait till you hear about silk moths. Actually, no need to wait, because I'm going to tell you right now. A male silk moth can detect certain smells at concentrations as low as 1 part per 100 quadrillion. In human terms, that's like being able to find a needle in a literal haystack. A haystack of 14 billion bales, or about like finding the 3 needles I put in random places somewhere in the Sahara Desert. Or like finding the actual content on this webpage that I can't even... But how does smelling even work? How does something emit a smell, and what is in my nose that allows me to somehow detect and generally identify that smell? Well, that is about as complex a question as asking me what I'm doing. To explain it in a somewhat basic way, an object emits a smell or odor because it has volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. These compounds easily evaporate at room temperature, hence the term volatile. Kind of how water evaporates, except unlike water, these compounds are composed of odorous molecules, causing the compound to smell. As the compound evaporates, it releases these odorous molecules into the air. Then, these molecules bind to receptor proteins extending from cilia in your nose, which are connected to the olfactory receptor neurons. This causes electrical signals to travel from the olfactory nerves to the olfactory bulb, which is part of the olfactory cortex. The olfactory cortex is the part of the brain which processes and interprets smells. The smells are largely interpreted by associating them with memories or emotions, which is why some odors can smell good to one person and bad to another. It simply depends on what memory your brain connects the smell to. We can tell the difference between smells because of the signals sent from the olfactory receptors, such as what combination of signals were sent. For example, if I showed you this sequence of red and white squares, you'd have no idea what it was. But if we arrange those squares like this, you can pretty easily tell what the squares mean. As you learn more and more sequences of squares, you will be able to quickly identify any number or shape simply by the sequence of squares. This is basically the same with smell. At the beginning of your life, you associate certain signals with certain objects, such as food, and then you remember these connections for years, thus allowing you to determine what a smell is from. This is really a gross oversimplification because there is so much more that this whole smelling process involves. But I think if I were to fully explain it, both you and I would look something like this. Anyway, smells can be used as a way of communicating silently and invisibly. These types of odors are called pheromones. Many animals use pheromones to communicate between each other. Honeybees release a pheromone when the hive is in danger, silently summoning more bees to their aid. Ants release pheromones to mark paths to food sources, thus giving a fast, accurate, and completely invisible message to the other ants. Even some aquatic animals use pheromones. Some catfish, for example, release a pheromone when in danger, which alerts other nearby catfish. It has been found that humans also release pheromones, or rather, emotion and mood-related scents. The question is, can we detect them? While we're pretty certain that humans can't detect them consciously, it is still unknown if we can detect them subconsciously. Have you ever had that feeling that someone was watching you, but you couldn't see anyone, and then later on you find out that there was in fact someone watching you? Pheromones and other smells can travel insane distances. Some moths release pheromones which can travel hundreds of meters, possibly even several kilometers, and polar bears can smell seals from over 30 kilometers away. What if humans emit odors which basically send an invisible message that tells everything going on in their mind, such as what they're looking at, and then you subconsciously detect those odors so that you can tell that someone is watching you? Humans can detect around 1 trillion different smells, more than enough smells to get a pretty good idea of what someone is thinking, if thoughts do indeed produce pheromones. It sounds completely outrageous, and for the most part it is, but we technically haven't proven that this isn't true. Although since animals generally can't tell if you're looking at them, and they have much better noses than humans, it's unlikely that this is the case. That being said, maybe they just can't interpret our odors to know what they mean. I personally feel like there is something that allows you to subconsciously detect someone's presence, even at a significant distance, whether that be the faintest air currents from their breath, the faintest temperature change from their body heat, the faintest electromagnetic wave from their brain, or the faintest sense they're releasing. Whatever the case, the extremely complex design of our nose and brain, and really the whole smelling process, really demonstrates just how much stuff is happening all around us, and inside us, that we so easily take for granted. From the polar bear smelling 30 kilometers away, to the silk moth with its 3 needles in the Sahara Desert like odor detection, I feel like my olfactory acuity is very much lacking.